Messieurs et Mesdames, I am Detective Hercule Poirot of the Belgian Police Force. I ask that you all remain calm and in your seats. I shall begin my investigation immediately.
I am a pretty big Agatha Christie fan. I have actually a big box full of her novels in my basement, and it goes without saying that I have seen the excellent TV adaptations. So I was quite happy when I learned that Hercule Poirot, the first cases, were being developed by the Scottish studio Blazing Griffin. Apparently it is the guys behind the ship. A game I have owned since forever, but never properly played due to lack of people to play with. Just before releasing Hercule Poirot, they also released Murder Mystery Machine. I came very close to buying it, but when I found out that it doesn't have voice acting, I put it on my wait for sale list. I don't want to seem demanding, but voice acting is kind of important in dialogue-heavy narrative games, and I expect the game to have it if it costs $20. But this game have voice acting.
Hop, hop! Huzzah!
And it is about Poirot.
Hop, hop! Huzzah! Hop, hop! Huzzah!
So of course I bought it. Let us jump into the presentation straight away. The music is really good, as you heard in the intro, and the voice acting is solid as well. I really like the guy who does Poirot, and he sold me on this younger version of the beloved character.
Ah, Mademoiselle Elizabeth. What a pleasure to see you again.
Detective Poirot, I'm so glad you could make it.
Unfortunately, it is not purely for pleasure that I am here. Mademoiselle Angeline requires my attention professionally.
Yes, Angeline has told me. I'm glad she called upon you, Detective. I've been rather worried about her.
The visuals won't win any awards, but you often look at them from a distance, and there are some nice looking rooms in this game. The character models looks a bit basic, but they look fine enough. The lip syncing and character animations are clearly lacking.
Ha ha ha! Not often you meet a detective with a sense of humor. I'm Zakaria Demir, but you can call me Zach.
But they manage to hide it away for the most part. One way they do this is to have these portraits on the side during conversations, which alter slightly depending on what people say. And I often found myself paying more attention to these than the actual character models. Overall, I like the presentation, and while it is not flashy like big budget games, the developers have worked within their limits to create a nice presentation, and to me it worked.
Hop, hop! Huzzah!
Now the story, as the name implies, is set before the events of the novels and follows Poirot as a young detective, solving two different but related cases. As usual, the focus is an upper-class family, this time a family in Belgium called Van der Bosch. I don't want to go into too much spoilers, but as usual, Poirot needs to unravel all the secrets of this family and their social circle to solve the mystery. The main mystery itself is decent, but the pacing is a bit slow, and it lacked those special moments and ideas which makes you remember it, 10 years from now.
Long live the king.
The mystery is only half the story though, and the other half is the characters and dialogue. Throughout the story, I never felt that Poirot was an imposter or acting out of character, and it goes without saying that this is quite important for fans of the books, and to me it passed this test.
Mademoiselle, when Detective Poirot speaks, they will listen.
The other characters are nice as well, and although there are no truly standout ones, I like them all for the most part. Something very important it pulls off is that it does feel like a Poirot story. Poirot feels like Poirot, and the story, characters and dialogue have a certain amount of class to it. Agatha Christie's stories have never been about nihilistic murder porn. Yes, there is murder and deceit, but there is also love and friendship, and you often leave the stories with a nice feeling. And this story manages to pull this off, and as a Christie fan, I am happy about that. One theme of the game is the conflict between the working class and the upper class, which is not something that Christie's novels usually go into. But it doesn't go overboard in my opinion with this aspect, although it is noticeable. Something that also benefited the story is the way the game handles clues and conclusions via the mind map. This made it easy for me as a player to be up to speed with Poirot. I will talk more about the mind map later, but from a story perspective, I think it worked really well, and it managed to keep me engaged with the mystery. Then we get to the gameplay, where there is really not that much to talk about. The core gameplay is that you have access to a couple of areas where you need to talk with people and look at objects. There are no branching dialogue, and there are no puzzles or inventory management or anything like that. When you have done this and interacted with everything you can interact with, then you go to your mind map, which is a visual representation of everything you know, and then you need to connect dots which are relevant to advance the story.
Some would say a lucky guess. I would say a moment of genius.
There isn't a whole lot to this, and people looking for classic point-and-click gameplay will not find it here. At a couple of points in the story, you need to convince people to reveal information by picking the right option, but this happens so rarely and ends so shortly that it is not really worth talking about. Before I start to talk about the core gameplay, which is the mind map, I should let you know that I am actually part of a secret cabal of the most hardcore point-and-click gamers you can find. And we decide on a game to play, and then we meet up at certain points in the game to compare notes that we have written down in our own pink journals. The reason I am telling you this is because this game was actually the target of this cabal. But when we first came together to compare notes, the other participants told me that the mind map sucked ass and that they were out. So the mind map is not for everyone. I didn't hate it to that degree, but I didn't love it either. Sometimes it works okay, but often it feels really arbitrary what should be connected to what, and I am not ashamed to say that I use the game's help system because I get nothing out of brute forcing all possible options just to connect what the developers think should be connected. But again, there really isn't that much to talk about when it comes to the gameplay, and while the mind map can be a bit annoying, I still like how it gives some structure to the investigation, so I don't see it as a big deal. All in all, I am happy that I bought this game. It took me a little bit over 10 hours to complete, and I enjoyed it, although I sometimes felt that the pacing could be a bit quicker. 30 euros is a bit steep, but I thought I got my money's worth out of the game. And if you like Agatha Christie or detective games, then I would certainly recommend it. Don't expect something amazing, but expect a solid detective game which manages to pull off the good old Agatha Christie charm.
Merci. Magnifique. Thank you. And a happy Christmas.